Welcome to the Wheel Scene YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be speaking to Justin Thursday. Justin is the man responsible for the AG60 frame, which Iqon have just released. There's been a lot of hype about it because of the materials that are used. So it combines the superfluid material and carbon blend to make it faster, stronger, allegedly. It's also got an interesting design that comes with replaceable metal plates. So you can either make it red or gold or silver. And it's got other interesting features like you can rocker the middle wheels. Basically, really cool frame, lots going on, slightly different to other things that are available on the market right now. And also it's available in 3 sizes, which is pretty rare for the aggressive market. Normally you can only get them in small and large, but with this frame, you can get it in 3 options. So that means bigger footed skaters or people that want just a longer wheelbase will be catered for. I got a pair of the Iqon AG60 frames this week and I've ridden them a couple of times, so I have got a load of questions for Justin. Hopefully my questions will answer some of your questions, and hopefully I'll stop saying the word questions. That's enough from me. Let's get into it. I have the frame. Congratulations on the frame.
I watched your session in them a couple of times.
It is a very pretty frame. I've got some question points for that, but we'll get into that in a minute. So yeah, it looks great.
Thanks.
How did it come about? How did you get hooked up with Powerslide for basically to get the opportunity to do it? Because I know you've made like sole plates for faction before.
Mm-hmm.
Did you do something for 50/50, or were you just designing sidewalls on your own?
Yeah, I kind of helped develop the core frame market and the core developer kit. Mostly just checks. Like I wouldn't say I designed much of it, but I was kind of Law's backup to make sure everything worked the way that he wanted it to work. I was printing stuff out, skating stuff, and making sure everything was in that pack that people download that needed to be there.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So that was kind of my first, official aggressive design project.
I thought that, but I wasn't sure. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I was doing a little bit of stuff on my own, but yeah.
A little bit of stuff on your own. You were doing a lot of stuff on your own. You were making anything and everything.
Yeah.
So what happened? How did things come about with Powerslide?
Matthias just must have seen all my stuff on social media and whatnot. And I got an email from him one day saying, he liked what I was designing and would love to work on something together. I think I proposed to do a frame because I wanted to take my T60R and make it into just, a traditional plastic frame.
Yeah.
So you didn't have to invest in the core system and all of that if you didn't want to. Because at the time it was a little less accessible. You couldn't get the cores on the round. You couldn't get full frame kits with just a printed wall. Like you had to invest in it and then get a separate wall. So it's kind of a little pricey up front. Now all of that stuff is much better where you can get things however you want with the core system. But yeah, he sent me an email one day, wanted to work. So we started designing a frame. So I decided, just wanted to make my dream frame. And they're like, yeah, let's do it.
Right. Okay. So he didn't want you to come up with something completely new. He was happy because obviously this is, well, it's not like already out there, but it's already out there in like some form. And the fact that like the basic concept at least already kind of existed in a different form. Right. Okay.
Yeah. So there was, and the T60R core wall, it did pretty well. I think it's still the most popular wall on the core frame market, which has moved to 5050frames.com now. Law just redid all the website stuff.
Right.
But yeah, so, I think I sold more than 100 sets of those walls. So the testing was out there and not a lot of negative feedback. So
that's what I was going to say.
Plenty of testing was on that design, so I was able to adapt it into a standalone frame.
Right. So what, like, I mean, I'm assuming you got some feedback. Like, what were they saying about it? Even like positive, like what were the positive feedback you were getting on it?
On the T60R wall?
Yeah.
A lot of people just say, it's one of their favorite flat frames. It's perfect for flat, minimal wheel bite, I think, depending on skill level, a lot of people are like, it's not even like when it comes to grinding, it's not even like skating flat, but with that little bit of rocker, it's like you get the best of both worlds. And that was the goal with the frame. I wanted a good flat frame with, kind of wheel bite protection, but I didn't want to sacrifice any of the rolling. Because for
Right.
me, that's the whole point of skating flat is being maneuverable, but don't want to make grinding difficult. So that was the whole goal of that design.
Okay. Whose idea was it to use the material that you used? Because like I was already like the fluid material is fast as hell. Like it slides
Yeah.
on everything. And then they're like, oh, we're introducing the superfluid. And I'm like, does the world
Yeah.
really need a superfluid? Like I don't know if it needs to go any like on handrails, that must be terrifying. And then with this
Right.
one, I chose it purely for aesthetics. I was like, I want the black one because I'm a big
Right.
goth, basically.
Right.
And then I was like, oh my God, I've just chose something that's got superfluid and carbon in it. I was like, that sounds like a
Mm-hmm.
terrifying mixture. Like, whose idea was that and why?
Um, I don't know. They developed the Superfluid, I think, before we started working on this frame because they had done a few other products in it, right? I think they had the
Yeah,
Fluid 5 in it and maybe some soles or something like that.
they do. Yeah,
So it was
they've got
available and I just,
Superfluid 5 and they've got the one they've got I don't even think it's out yet, but it's like the frame sole plate combo.
yeah, that I'm pretty sure that'll be coming in that material. Um, yeah, as far as I understand it, it's just the same, nylon formula, but then instead of glass, they use carbon fiber, which just makes it stiffer, effectively stiffer, stronger, maybe a little lighter, but no one's ever going to notice the difference.
Right. Have
I would
you
think it would be more wear resistant too.
that's what I'm interested to find out because I've already had a shot of them at the skate park and I was like, well,
Yeah.
it didn't feel that different to
Okay.
like the kind of fluid material. But then I'm like, when if you take it to concrete, or then I feel like then you
Yeah, I
might
think it'll
notice.
shine on a ledge.
Yeah. Um. So yeah, I was like, I was a bit terrified. I was like, are these just going to absolutely fly on rails? And I'm good because I don't know if I want to go that fast.
Right.
like there's only there's I don't really want to grind at supersonic speed. Like just a nice smooth slide is enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I'm kind of glad they did the white one too because the superfluid is carbon infused. You can basically only do black because it's 30% of it is carbon fiber, which is black. So you can't really do other colors in it. So it's cool that they came out with the glass fiber one, which I didn't know that was even planned until a month or two ago.
right.
Um, that was nice to see that, there's a more affordable option too, and then, maybe other colors in the future.
That was yeah. When I took a photo and sent them to my friend, they were like, they look used. And I was like, no, that like they're fresh in the box. And they're like, why does the material look like that? And I'm like, oh, it's because it's like a blend. Like it's not just normal plastic. And they're like, oh right, okay. And I'm like, yeah, it does look weird, but it like of
Yeah.
course like it's not going to look like other frames because it's not the same material as other frames. So
Yep.
what's the idea behind having the well, I'm assuming I already know, but what's the idea behind having the rocker just on the two middle wheels and not on all four wheels?
Yeah, so that came from the T60R. So the T60R was only rockered. It had a 1 millimeter rocker, and that was it. And I ended up having to do a T60F because a lot of people didn't want rocker. For me, I always want the rocker, but I wouldn't want to take that to a vert ramp or a bowl or a mega ramp. I don't want my feet doing any of that. So
Yeah,
basically, like I wanted this frame to be rocker. That was my primary goal with it. And then I figured, just some spacers, we can make it flat too. So the wheels being rockered up and down, it's not for different wheels, different configurations. It's just for flat or rocker. So there's no reason to make all four wheels adjustable. And then, you're not dealing with um, different hardware in wheels 1 and 4. Um, it being thinner. I don't think it's ever going to happen with any of these materials, but some frames would break there. So I figured just keep that solid and stationary. Um, and just make it a little simpler to change it up. Because one of the other goals was to make this frame as low as possible. Like the top of a 60 millimeter wheel is only 1 millimeter away from the top of the frame. So it's as
Mhm.
low as you can be without having wheel wells. So there was no reason for those wheels to move.
Right. Okay. Got it. And then when did the concept for like the having the metal sliders come into play?
I think that was Umberto's idea actually, because this material's strong. We were basically doing all these cutouts on the inside of the frame just to get rid of material, make it a little bit lighter. So he had the Q logo on there, and he's like, it would be cool to put a plate back there or something to, if the frame only comes in black and white, now you can kind of spice it up a little bit with the
Yeah.
plates. So it was just a fun little aesthetic thing, and they're like super thin aluminum, so they don't even add any weight. I don't know if
Yeah.
you pulled them out of your frames, but
Oh
they
yeah,
weigh
yeah. I
nothing.
was messing about with them because I was like, and other like it just kind of like reminds me of like with Create Originals. It never even entered my mind to like think about doing that. I was like, I cannot be asked going
Yeah,
onto a computer designing a sidewall. Like, does it like design the cut? Like, no, like that's not.
yeah,
That has no interest to me. But the fact that it's there in the box and you're like, oh well, this is all I need to do is
right.
choose.
Yeah, you got three colors with it, and you could take a marker or spray paint and change it to
Yeah.
whatever color in just a couple minutes. Yeah,
Um.
I skated creates for years too, and I almost never put inserts in them because I think early on they offered what they called a naked frame, which didn't come with any hardware, and that's what I would always buy because my axles and spacers were always fine. Just
Yeah.
buy the bare frame. I think it was only $45 and a
That
decent
was
deal.
it. Yeah, I was the same. I was like, I don't know why. Like,
Hmm.
I'm not buying this window thing because I'm never going to use it. So this is
Yeah,
yeah, this is
I think
pointless.
occasionally I'd throw a sticker in there or something, but yeah,
But I can't think of another example where Powerslide have like worked with quote unquote an outsider and then allowed
yeah,
that person to basically like put their own logo on. Like you've basically got your logo on another
yeah.
brand's product.
That's actually kind of funny about that because early in the development of it, I was like, I like to sign all my parts. So I was like, on the inside of the grind block, can I just throw my logo in there? They're like, no, we want it on the sidewalls. Like, we want people to know that that was that. Because when it started out, I was thought, I'm just a contracted designer. I thought, just designing a frame, my name wouldn't really be out there. But then it turned into this whole collab thing, which is pretty cool. And it sounds like they're going to do more because they said, their first collab. I don't know anything about that, but I think they're going to do more collab projects.
Oh, right. I was going to be like the first one with you, but you mean like as in
Oh,
they're just in general. Right. Okay.
yeah, maybe that's the impression I got anyway. I haven't asked or anything.
Right. Oh, yeah. That is quite interesting.
There's a lot of designers now,
This is true. When
a
you
lot of
look on
people making a
Facebook and
lot of
you
cool stuff.
see, yeah, there's a lot of guys coming up because there's that I'm gonna butcher his name. Claudio something that's always putting up like 3D. He's always like basically
Yeah,
giving out, yeah, like
yeah, Claudio Antonelli, he runs
that's
the
it. Yeah.
rebooting.tech site, and
Yeah.
it's just open source. Anybody can send files to him, and then they're made available and download them, print them, or use a print shop elsewhere.
Yeah. And there's a bunch of guys
Yeah.
making like aftermarket sole plates for razors, for mesmers, for them skates as well and stuff like that. So it's
Hmm.
definitely it's definitely one of these things that could just entirely change rollerblading where you're like, you know what?
Hmm.
I'm not happy with the hardware that comes with it. Like you can love the boot, but not be happy with any other aspect of it. And you're like, I don't have to rely on the skate company. Like
Yeah.
I can find well, if you're smart enough and have the technical knowledge that you do, you can just make it. But if you don't, you can find these people, and they're pretty easy to find on social media. Like they're all
Yeah.
just putting their stuff up. You can be like, that appeals to me. That looks good. That looks like something that I would like to have on my feet. So
Right.
I think that's obviously it's terrifying for the skate companies.
Well, it's kind of like anything else. When you do something yourself, only so many people are going to take the plunge.
Yeah.
It is a lot of work to do it, and if you're not doing it yourself, paying a print shop to do it is pretty expensive. Like to get those soles, like any of Claudio's soles or mine, because I have some soles available too. It would be like $500 for a set of soles to get it from a print shop because they use industrial machines.
Yeah.
You could hire a local guy like me, but you're still looking at like $80 to $100 for a set of soles. So it's just because it's a lot of work.
But then, like, depending on if it's durable enough, that's the equivalent to like spending a couple of $100 on a high quality pair of liners. Like, if the liners are going to last several pair of skates, or the sole plate's going to last several boots of that same model, then like if you're a them guy and you just want to keep getting the new them colors, but you want a more substantial sole plate, and it offers that, job done.
I haven't heard anybody complain yet, so I don't know if it's making too big of a dent.
Right. Okay. It's one of these. It's kind of one of these things where you're like, if anything, they should be happy because it makes their skate more appealing to people. Like, say for example, like the biggest complaint I've heard about them skates is people don't like the small sole plate, or they don't like the backslide groove. Well, if you offer them something that allows more customers to buy it, the customers that don't like that aspect of it, then it is a win for them. They're retaining more customers, but then at the same time, they're losing out on sole plate sales, but they're getting the skate sale in the first place. So
yeah, that's true. That I don't think anybody is making and selling a printed boot or anything like that. So there'll always be that.
Another thing I was surprised about this frame is this is one of the few aggressive frames that comes in 3 sizes. Most aggressive frames only come in small or large.
Yep. Yeah. So that was intentional on my part.
Right.
Yeah. So I came up with that, and basically, like you said, small and large, it's usually 250 millimeter and 270 millimeter. That's kind of the standard size. So with this, we went 252, 264, and 278. And the reason for that is when you're skating a rockered, or at least when I'm skating a rockered frame, I want that wheelbase to match the maneuverability. You know, either you might want your frame to be a little bit longer. So, 278 is kind of on the edge of extra large a little bit. And that extra length when you're skating rockered gives you some balance. And, if you've always kind of been stuck between small and large, you've got a 264 in there, which should be perfect for like a US 8-9 boot. I would probably still use the small at 252 because I'm a 25.5 centimeter in just about all skates. So I'm on the mediums right now, and they actually feel really good. But again, I've got them rockered, so that extra wheelbase kind of helps keep your balance and dig into carves and stuff like that.
That's what I was going to say, because I instinctively just went for the large because that's all I've ever skated, because the 2 options are small or large. Well, I skate like a size 10 US, so like a size 9 UK, so like a medium them skate, or a size 10 US sway. And then I got them and I put them on the skate, and I was like, these are huge. And I was like, that wheelbase is massive. And then I was skating around and I was like, these feel really, I was like, this is the longest frame I've ever had on a skate.
Yeah.
And then I came home and I was like, right, I feel like I've done something stupid here. So I started looking, I started researching all the other frames, and I was like, oh my God. I was like, this is like almost 15. So the Iqon AG60 is almost 15 millimeters longer than a large crate original.
Okay.
Like that's cool. A huge jump.
Yeah, I almost went longer.
And then I think the large Fluid 5, I'm pretty sure it's definitely over 10 millimeters longer than that as well, because I made a video comparing them. And then I was looking at the only frame that even comes close to being the same length that I have tried. I'm imagining that the Wish frame they look as if they're quite long as well. The Entente Derridari, but even the Entente Derridari, the large one, is a couple of millimeters shorter than the AG60, and the wheel distribution is different.
Right.
The wheel distribution is more even, so I think that makes it feel not as long, if that makes sense.
Yeah. If your middle wheels are closer together rather than having a big split, it'll be more maneuverable.
Yeah.
Have you ever skated an Aeon?
Yes, but it was very long.
It almost feels anti-rocker, even though you're skating flat.
Yeah. I skated the first ones when they came out, and then I was like, no, this sole plate thing isn't working for me. I'm not tolerating this. But yeah, like having them, and I'll show you this here. That is like I can't think of another frame I've ever seen that has like that. I call it like dead space, where it's just like because
Oh yeah.
when I put the wheels in, I was like, oh, there's like quite a sizable like.
Hmm.
What was your reason? What was your? There must be a concept behind it that
Yeah. So that is so two reasons. One, when your middle wheels are more evenly spaced with your outer wheels, you're going to get a better rocker.
okay.
So, even spacing that keeps your pivot point even. The other thing is I wanted the frame to be as low as possible, and UFS mounting is in the way. So the wheels had to come in a little bit. I think the split is 112, 112 millimeters from wheel 2 to 3, which nowadays that's not a huge split. It's a decent split, but I think the groove geometry kind of makes up for that. And it
Right.
looked like you didn't have too much trouble on your groove tricks.
They were so it was one of these. I was rolling around for like the first 30 minutes and I was like, oh, I was like, I feel like something's wrong. Like just the stride felt strange. I kept like catching the front wheel when I was pushing off. And I
Oh
was
yeah.
like, I've never had this before. And I don't it felt like, like when you'd started skating and you weren't really familiar with how like the skates operated. And then by the
Yeah.
end of the session, I didn't notice, like, well,
Mhm.
didn't notice as much, but I was like, oh, this isn't a problem anymore. And then the combo that I stupidly chose with I've never really I didn't give it much thought, but I basically put like the kind of almost bullet profile of the mushroom blade nose
Uh,
on that, so it's just created this like perfect long edge where like the like what would you call it, like a tapered frame, like it tapers
yep.
off, but then it tapers off perfectly onto like the side of the wheel, so it's basically just created this flat perfect cess slide edge.
Yep.
A perfect cess
So
slide edge is also a wipeout edge as well. So you're like,
exactly. So, and that's what I mean when I say I designed it for rolling too. So I did specifically design it for round profile 60 millimeter wheels. I wouldn't recommend anybody use bullet, even 60 millimeter. You could probably do like the flat profile 58 millimeters because the outside edge of the wheel is roughly in the same spot. So basically, the idea, let's see if I can illustrate this. You angle that there. Basically, the sole, the edge of the frame, and the wheel are all roughly in the same spot. So you get a straight line there. Um, and basically, once you're on a ledge, you're just touching the frame and the sole and your wheel. Once you pivot a little bit, you drop your toe or your heel, depending. Your wheel should be off the ledge. But with that tight beveled edge, you can get pretty deep into carving or crossing over when you're just skating. That's
yeah,
the idea there. So yeah, I would try 60 millimeter wheels next time,
that was
and
yeah.
I'd try them rockered. If they feel too long, try a rocker.
Okay. That was I was like, I want to see how they feel just like a traditional flat frame first,
Yeah,
and then yeah, then mess about with it. But I was like, yeah, I knew after that first session, I was like, I've clearly done something wrong here. And I was like, I've chosen the wrong wheel profile. I was like, I can't
yeah,
remember the last time I skated like a square profile, like a flat profile wheel. I was like,
yeah,
round one, I definitely would feel safer in this. And then I was like, and I've chosen the wrong size. I was like, if I'm so used to skating around the 265 mark and I've basically jumped up like 15 millimeters, I was like, I've basically just given
yeah.
myself a completely different frame size. So,
Right.
but I didn't have access.
Yeah.
I didn't know how long the frames were when
Oh,
guy from
okay.
Powerslide was like, "What size do you want?" I was like, "Well, I always go large, so large." And then it
Yep.
was only when I saw there was three options, and the middle one is like that's the
Yeah,
equivalent to every other brand's large.
we probably could have done a little better job of marketing that. Um, because basically, like in your position, it was like if you wanted to skate rockered and you knew you wanted to skate rockered, then you would probably want to go with the large. If you wanted to go flat, mostly, you'd probably want to go with the medium. Not that you couldn't do both and they wouldn't work, but
Yeah.
that's kind of the idea there is that those three sizes cover most of your bases depending on how you want to skate.
These were first shown. I never even saw these at Winterclash because when I went over to the Powerslide booth, Eugen was just showing me like the one piece frame and sole plate and raving
Oh,
about
okay.
this, being like, he's like, this is going to change everything. He's like, just
Yeah.
wait when this comes out. And I was like, that is pretty nuts. And they showed me a couple
Hmm.
of things. Never even saw the frame. Only saw the pictures afterwards, and was like, oh. But then that's quite a jump. Like it's been almost that's 10 months. It's been like 10 months
Yeah.
since the frame was announced to when it was actually released. So
Hmm.
what happened there? Like, do you know?
I'm not sure. I think maybe they were just excited about the new stuff and wanted to show it all off. There was no, I don't think there was a release date for any of that stuff at that point. Um, yeah, I think they just wanted to show stuff off since it was everything was pretty close to finalized. I think they were really just into testing at that point. So that's my theory. I never got a reason, but because everybody's like, why has it been so long? Well, it's just because they showed it off too early.
Right.
I think they
Okay.
were just excited about it.
It looks like I was the only, well, me and one other person was the only people that struggled to get wheels in this, because I've seen you repost and other
Oh yeah.
people that have now got the black frames, and other people seem to be getting the wheels in no problem. Either that or they've got access to tools that I just do not own.
Yeah, maybe. I had a hard time. I had another frame with wheels in it, and I was using that frame as a hammer. So I was hitting urethane against urethane.
Right.
Um,
I can't bring
have you
myself to
taken them
do
apart
that.
yet? Yeah.
I can't bring myself to like hammer in the wheel because I know what it does to the bearing shield. And that like
Okay.
I'm like, I'm putting brand new bearings in this, and the first thing I'm going to do is damage them. No. So I'm like, I'm
I did it with
wedging the
Swiss
frame open.
bearings, and
And you can hear
they're all
something.
good.
Are they all good?
Oh, they're used. They're a little
Okay.
old, a little dusty. They probably need cleaned and lubed.
Yeah, even with
Yeah,
all my
I
attempts, there was still shards of metal all over the garage floor. I was like, yep, that's either that's frame spacer
yeah.
or bearing. Yeah.
So the spacers are cast metal. I think probably aluminum. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, it did shave a little off there. So I um, took one apart and put it back together. It was way easier the second time.
Okay.
Like it had to break the spacers in or something.
All right. No, I've not tried to take the wheels out, and I'm not planning on doing that anytime soon. I was
How are you gonna try them rockered?
I figure I'll wear them in enough so that they have some give. At first, I thought the reason for the space distribution was so that you could take the frames on and
Mm,
off with it, but you can only just get the Allen key in there with
just
58s,
barely.
and you can unscrew it, but you can't get the screw out.
Yep.
So you
I
can
found
take
that
it,
out earlier.
you can take it off the boot, but you can't actually, because I stupidly, yep, it's this skate. I did it the wrong way round, like
Uh-huh.
the squares on the inside, which is
Cool.
just killing me because the other one, the squares are on the outside. But I was like, oh, I can take the frame off, but I can't twist it around because the bolts are the wrong length for the front and the
Oh
back.
yeah.
So
The
I'm
heel
like,
one's a little taller.
and then I was like, wait a minute though. If you put 60 millimeter frame, 60 millimeter wheels in there, you would have no access
Yeah.
to the
I
UFS
was able
bolt.
to do it. I really wouldn't recommend it because your key's at a good angle there. I was able to take my frame off without taking the wheels out or stripping a bolt. But yeah, I wouldn't recommend it because you could round the bolt off.
Well,
Granted, we've got some really good bolts. So
yep, yep. Yeah, I got it off and I was like, oh, you can't get these out. And I was like, I'm not tempting. I just very tentatively put them back on. And I was like, I was like, I feel like you've done enough, made enough of a mess with this frame so far. I was like, let's just use this the way it is. But yeah, I've not tried to get the wheels back out yet. That I'm genuinely
yeah.
scared to try.
I usually do, and I have to. All frames are like this because the problem is you've got all this material in the grind block. When it comes out of the mold, that's where it shrinks, so it pulls in the walls. And yeah, it being carbon, it's stiffer. Um, but yeah, what I'll do often is I'll get a tool in here and kind of use the front wheel as a pivot, pop it out.
Even just from using them in the skate park, did start to notice like just like the tiniest bit of a groove going in the H block. So I'm wondering if it's like with symmetrics. I noticed this as well. They'll break in like straight away, like they'll start grooving straight away, and you're like, oh my god, these aren't going to last. And
Yeah,
then it just has this point where it's like, no, no more. Like
yeah,
that's as much as of a groove as you're going to get.
right. And that's kind of the idea behind the geometry of the groove is that it's got a sharp groove when you're looking at it like this. You got a nice tight groove here. and that's to keep you off ledges, if you're doing a stand-up front side. But then that curvy geometry there, that's supposed to mimic a broken in frame,
Right. Okay.
a dozen sessions on a ledge or whatever. That's what a frame would kind of look like. But then I brought that further out. So basically, the idea is that it's already broken in. So you've got all that flat surface to wear down on. So it's like, I think once you slide over the top of it, just a couple of sessions, I don't think it's going to wear down that fast because you've got all that surface area rather than, and no criticism to other frames, you have to break in most grooves to get that shape to it.
Yeah.
I just want to get straight to the point.
And I'm assuming Powerslide are giving you a cut of sales, or did they pay you a fee up front?
Both. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, both. That's all right. Okay.
Yeah. It's a good deal.
You're like,
leave it at that.
I'm happy enough with that. That's hey, as long as you're happy with the arrangement, that's fine by me.
Exactly. Yeah.
If that, like, say this goes well, the frame sells out, people are raving about it. Have Powerslide or Matthias said anything like, if this goes well, we could do more together, or is that not being discussed yet?
Well, we are doing more together. I'm helping them with one project right now. And Matthias had expressed interest in some other concepts that I have. I'm more waiting for this to really make sure everything goes well here before I'm like, okay, what's next?
Okay.
So yeah, I think there's a good chance we'll do some more stuff together. One project is a little more long term, so that might take a while. But yeah, it's kind of a wait and see right now.
That's that new skate you're developing with them. Yeah, we know about that. That's fine. I'm getting nothing out of you. Okay, I tried.
Nope.
How does Clark Kirkman feel that you're cheating on him? In fact, how does Clark and Law feel about you cheating on both of them?
I think they're happy for me. Yeah.
Right.
Talked to Law about it a little bit. I don't think I've talked to Clark much about it, but that dude, I mean, both of those guys, they work so hard all the time.
Last question, and I'll let you go. You obviously someone that's designed lots of product yourself. Which products on the market right now from like any brand are you like, that's a great, like, that is I wish I designed that, or you're like, I've used that is an amazing product, I would recommend that to other people? Like either one or multiple. Like what other hardware have you seen out there that you're like, yeah, they're onto something there?
Yeah, so all the new Kaiser stuff coming out looks really cool to me. Like I've made some of my own sole frames, non-UFS and all of that. So I'm really glad somebody's doing that. If I had to pick a boot, I would probably get an Iqon carbon boot. I think that's the closest to what I like. Because I mean, I'm still skating Deshi carbons here, but with reinforced cuffs and liners. So that's pretty similar to what I skate. And then honestly, I wish I had gotten to try out the Kaiser Fluid 5 before I got hurt, because that looked like a pretty good frame. I love the prime frame, even stock walls. Not being able to skate, for over 2 years now, it's a little different because there's all this stuff now, and it's like it looks cool, but it's harder to form an opinion when I'm not like consistently skating.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are just some that come to mind that look pretty good to me.
Thanks for taking time to do it. It was awesome to speak to you. And yeah, I mean, I'm going to be in touch because I'm going to ask you more stupid questions or send you more videos of me pulling apart your frames and trying to get wheels back out in like a month.
Perfect. I'm down for it. All right. Thanks, man.
Bye.
Bye.